trumpet players, let's talk about the lip slurs for the physical trumpet pyramid. My approach to lip slurs is different from the traditional approach. And they're not just superficially different, and they are superficially different, but they're also different all the way down to the reasons why we actually do them. Ever since I created this physical trumpet pyramid order, and it's really not just an order, it can function just as an order, but it's really more of a rebuilding, a daily rebuilding, and you use that order to do that rebuilding. But if you know that it's a rebuilding, some types of traditional exercises just don't work anymore in that context. And that's why I had to write my own system of lip slurs. Now, before this happened, and what led up to me writing my own method, was the traditional lip slurs. I was doing 2 hours of lip slurs a day. This is in the mid-80s, right? Embouchure Builder by Little, I did that book. Advanced Lip Flexibilities by Colin. 27 Groups of Exercise by Irons. Daily Drills and Technical Studies by Schlossberg. I was doing 2 hours of that every day. And I remember the philosophy we had back then, right? The philosophy back then was as regular and consistent as you are in your practice time, that's how regular and consistent you will be in performance. That's the philosophy. It's not a good philosophy. It's not actually true. So, but since that meant I was doing 2 hours every day, including Sunday, back then I didn't believe in taking a day off. And it was part of, I'm not saying that lip slurs are bad. I'm saying that it was part of what destroyed me and made me have to start over. Okay? Now, I know that a lot of people look at lip slurs, the traditional lip slurs, as sort of like weightlifting, bodybuilding kind of stuff. And on the surface, that seems to make sense. Over the years, what I've come to understand, now that change that I made was in the 80s. It's been now 30 years. 30 years? Yeah, 30 years. Almost 30 years since I made those changes. And a lot of time to pass for me to think through this stuff, and that's what I do. I'm a thinker, right? And I believe that the strength has so little to do with what we do as trumpet players. Even the high note stuff, and in fact, I'll go as far as to say especially the high note stuff. Especially the high note stuff has very little to do with the strength. Now, I'm not saying that the strength isn't important. Yes, you've got to have enough strength to get you over that threshold. But the reality is that range familiarity, becoming more familiar with those notes is a lot more important than having the strength. And it takes a lot longer to develop. For that reason, when we focus on familiarity instead of strength, we get the strength because we're spending that time doing this stuff. Okay? But my point is that it's not like bodybuilding. And in fact, if you approach lip slurs and other physical rudiments as if it's bodybuilding, there's 2 things that can happen with that. One is that you end up with a bad sound. And why is that? If you think of it as strength, if you think what you need to do to get that note is to strive for it physically. You will always have that forced sound. Now, maybe you like a forced sound. Let's make allowances for artistic interpretation, right? Maybe you like that sound. So, I'm not saying, never in any of these videos, right? Never am I saying all those guys are bad, right? I'm sharing with you my experiences according to what I've learned since I made all my changes in the mid-'80s, right? So, no, it's not strength. Playing high has less to do with strength and more to do with those very, very subtle differences that happen in your face and here too for that matter. There are extremely subtle differences. And when I say here too, I'm talking about, there's the pivot of the horn does change. Now I don't believe in trying to change like conscientiously, but you should allow the horn to change in your hand, that pivot to accommodate the lips. That's how I teach pivoting. I don't do a forced pivot. What I do for pivoting is allow the instrument to float freely in the wrist, right? Okay? And in fact, for the pivot, I have my students do this exercise. This is a bonus, right? This is not supposed to be part of this video. And I have them, they don't play. They just hold the wrist and use the embouchure to move the bell up and down from the mouthpiece. So that's what playing high is. That's what flexibility is, by the way. Flexibility is knowing precisely what difference to make between two notes. It's not about strength. It's not about power. Okay? Now, if you know that, and you look at my physical trumpet pyramid system, and why we do those exercises when we do them, then you can see why the lip slur exercises needed to be different, right? If it's not strength, and we're using the lip slurs as part of that re-beginning every day, right? Restarting the trumpet every day. And the first thing we do is get acquainted on the mouthpiece. On the lip buzz, right? Then the mouthpiece. Then we play long tones. And the long tones expand. Well, at least my new long tones do, right? So we want long tones that gradually go head to the top of your range, to your bottom of your range, mostly with stepwise motion. But it's slow, so you're like pushing the boundaries on both sides in a comfortable manner. Then you go from there to the tonalization studies. Now, if you are doing the daily routines book, it goes straight from that to the lip slurs, from the long tones to lip slurs. The newer books put the tonalization studies between the long tones and the lip slurs. So then if you look at the tonalization studies, you can do as many as 20 in one day, and all 20 of those go gradually to your top note, gradually to your bottom note. Now, the purpose of these new lip slurs is to take that top and bottom range that you have and start taking notes out of them until what you're left with is high notes and low notes in one exercise. Okay? I'm going to play one of the original trumpet lip slurs that I wrote way back in the 80s. Okay? This is one of the very first lip slurs I wrote back in those early days. So far, seems like just every other exercise, right? We're going to do the same exercise again, but this time we're going to leave out the C. Ah. I'm not usually playing like this. So I'm trying to hold it around the microphone. Then the next step is you put the C back in, take out the G and the E. Then the last one in this series is take out the C. Now, in the daily routines book, the original daily routines book, we had 7 sets of these exercises depending on the range that you're playing. And as you see, the whole idea is to connect your top range to your bottom range. So this exercise that I just did would have been for a trumpet player whose range is up to G, or it would have been on one of his lower days. I'm not going to explain what that means, but those of you who are watching this and know what that means, part of my system, you can learn more about that in the one range book. We don't do the same exercises every day. We push ourselves 2 days a week. On the other days, let's say I have a range that goes up to E above high C. I would still do these exercises that I just played for you, but I would do them on sort of a day off. I'm still practicing that day. I'm just not pushing myself physically up into the upper register and longer periods of time for the day. Okay? So that's the first lip slurs that I wrote. I have them for high C, I have them for up to E above the staff, and then I have them for G above high C, and then the other ones that are lower. Okay, now, the lip slurs evolved after that. So I have a book called, Trumpet Switchbacks. And it takes the same exercise, but starts on A instead, so that we have, first of all, you have a breath in the middle, but you're not starting on the high notes, and you're not starting on the low notes, you're starting halfway through the chromatic sequence. Now that same sequence that we did with taking notes out applies to this too. Now, in the new books, it's that sequence, but with an extension. It's an optional extension. Without the optional extension, it's the same as what I just played for you. But this is when you get the Trumpet Chops books. So like this would be from the Trumpet Chops player book. That is the most recent rendition. Now, same thing, we take notes out. There are only, how many did I do earlier? I think there's 5 of them, right? The, let's look real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lip slur exercises. If that's the level that you're at, you're only doing 4 lip slur exercises. That's less than 5 minutes of lip slurs. And that's part of what I was shooting for when I did this. I knew that the lip slurs were killing me. I wanted something that had the same benefit, but without all the damage. And that's what I came up with, right? Now, you got to remember that these lip slurs serve a different purpose. This is not for strength building. I'm just reminding, I already said that, but I'm going to remind you again. This is not for strength building, so that's why you don't have to do 2 hours of them. Right? You don't have to do 2 hours of them. Now, all of my routine books have different variations of these lip slurs. So, for example, Chops Express. We're going to take what's already short and shorten it even more. And I'm doing this by memory. I don't think I have it on here. Let's look real quick. Nope, I don't have it on here. That's the whole exercise. And then so you're going to do 4 of those. four of those, right? And so now you've taken that 5 minutes, you've turned it into 3. That's why we call it Chops Express. But think about it. If you do that on a daily basis, I have a saying that I don't really have it like formalized or anything, but there's this thing that I tell the students every day. What you do on a regular basis becomes who you are. You don't have to do a lot of it. You just have to do it. So if you're playing exercises that cover your full range, I know you can't see down there. If you're doing exercises like, right? Because the higher up you go, the more expanded these lip slurs become. If you're doing that every day, that becomes part of who you are musically. You don't have to do hours of it. You just have to do some. Okay? And yes, now let's talk about the proper way to practice these, because there are some things that people can do wrong. Okay, I have 4 things, I think. Proper procedure. Now, they should really be done if you're going to do these exercises, because they were tailor-fit to work with the Physical Trumpet Pyramid. So you should be doing these exercises as part of the Physical Trumpet Pyramid. Okay? If you take it out of order, you're kind of missing the whole point. That said, if you want to be creative and this works for you in a different way, I don't ever tell people, no, you can't use my stuff in the wrong way. No, I'm not like that, right? I just have to be scratching my head like, it was designed for this. Now you're doing something over here for that. I don't know. So it really should be part of the Physical Trumpet Pyramid order. And just to summarize that, we've got other videos on that, but let's go through the order real quick the way it is. We do air exercise, we do lip buzz, we do mouthpiece placement, we do mouthpiece buzzing, we do long tones, we do the tonalization studies, which is my scale study system, and then we do the lip slurs. After the lip slurs, we will do articulation. Well, depending on how advanced you are, we might do pedal tones next. I don't teach pedal tones to the beginners or whatever. So pedal tones, articulation studies, intervals in the articulation studies, and then lately I've added articulation endurance, and then the multiple tonguing, which is double tonguing and triple tonguing. Okay, these lip slurs really should be used as part of that system. Number two, don't drill these. If you got it wrong, you heard me make a mistake. That's because I'm trying to play like this. I'm a natural downy. I play better when I'm pointing down, and it's because of my teeth structure. And so yes, I made mistakes. We don't like keep doing them until we get them right. I like to think of it as one shot. You got one shot to get this right today. If you don't get it right today, make a mental note and try to fix it tomorrow. Don't drill the exercises. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. One of the biggest reasons is we want to get the routine done so we can move on to the music, right? Another one is the mental part of it, right? If you keep stopping and drilling, it changes the way you play. And by the way, this rule about not drilling is for the whole routine. Don't use the routine to keep trying to get it right, keep trying to get it right, keep trying to get it right. Don't do that on my stuff, not on the routine. You can do that on music. Don't do that on the routine. The whole point of the routine is you get one shot, but you get that one shot every day. Okay? Number three, top priority goes to the air, and this is kind of funny because it's supposed to sound bad if you haven't mastered it yet. Let's say you're doing that last one that goes from C to G, and you just don't have that control yet. I tell my students sometimes it sounds like an animal being slaughtered. You know, it sounds like a beast moaning out in agony. Right? We want, what makes it sound so horrible is that you're pushing the air. Air is the first priority, not accuracy. So you're pushing the air, your lips aren't, you haven't learned yet how to control the lips well enough to hit all of those individual notes or not hit all of those individual, depending on which exercise you're on. The trick actually might be not to hit those notes, right? And you also have difficulty when you first start doing this in hearing the notes. So sometimes what you're hearing is a little flat and it gives up that awful sound. Anytime you have that and you're pushing through it with the abdomen, supporting those notes, pushing through, it sounds awful. So the philosophy that says you should never sound awful when you're practicing doesn't work for this. It's supposed to sound awful if it is awful, right? If you're not there yet, it's supposed to sound bad. Okay? I'm not saying it's okay to sound bad. It's never okay to sound bad. But sounding bad is not nearly as bad as sucking on it. Right? We want to push the air through. No matter how bad it is, we still want to push the air through. And by the way, doing that every day is another one of the huge beneficial aspects of doing this routine. When you do that part right, imagine what that does to your performance on music. You never have. So one of the worst things that can happen in a musical performance is, oh, I made a mistake, right? And your air starts to suffer because you reacted to some mistake. What if every day leading up to that performance, you had these awful lip slur sessions, and you pushed through those anyway, and now you're trained like a warrior to push through, even when it's most desperate. Think about how that's going to change the way you perform. You will no longer be one of those apologetic, timid players anymore. You will be one of those that if you do make a mistake, you're going to make a big one. And we like that, right? especially when we're in those growing and maturing days. Because what that does is it creates in you that more assertive, more expressive trumpet player, not a reactive trumpet player. We don't want to be that guy that reacts, that girl that reacts to, oh, I just made a mistake. We don't want to be that. So don't be that when you're doing any of the exercises in the routine, but specifically for these lip slurs. Number 4 in the list of proper procedure for practicing these lip slurs, you want to adjust for your current range. We have in our books 7 different range levels. The first one is low F sharp to tuning note C. That's for the beginners. Then we have low F sharp to the E above that, 4th space E. Then we have low F sharp to the G above the staff. I call that the trumpet player level. And then we have low F sharp to the B flat above the staff. Then low F sharp to high C, low F sharp to E above high C, and then low F sharp to the G above high C. 7 different levels. Now in the Chops Express book and the Daily Routines book, those books have all 7 levels. In the Trumpet Chops series, each book is 1 level. So like the Trumpet Chops player book, all of the exercises are for that one range, up to G above the staff. Now we're still working on getting 3 of those books published. I think we have 4 of them out now. The next one to come out will be the Trumpet Master one. That's the E above high C. But yes, you do want to adjust this for your current range. Now, if you have any questions about these exercises, these original trumpet lip slur exercises, I encourage you to let us know either here on the comments down below, or you can go to my websites, either the blog or the eddylewis.com, and you can ask me there. And I try to answer every email that comes in, okay? Other than that, God bless you, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you. Thank you for watching this video. I wanted to spend just a minute to let you know that there's a better, more convenient, more organized way to access all of these videos. We have literally hundreds of videos here on YouTube, and quite frankly, it's a bit of a mess. So, to make it a little bit more organized and easier for you to access what you want to access, I created a separate page, a separate area on my website. That's eddylewis.com. And if you go to eddylewis.com, click on the menu, click on videos. It will take you there. I have the videos categorized, and then within those categories, some of them, like the educational videos, you can click on it and go in there and look for the videos specifically that you're looking for. Okay? So go to eddylewis.com, eddylewis.com. Thank you very much.